The Sound of Freedom has inspired Donald Trump.
Mr. Reagan.
You have been at this for 12 years.
My country, 'tis of thee.
Why are you doing it?
Sweet land of liberty.
Because God's children are not for sale.
The Sound of Freedom is a very powerful film. It's so powerful that it has inspired Donald Trump to call for the death penalty for human traffickers. And I love it.
I will use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families in their home countries and without delay. And I will urge Congress to ensure that anyone caught trafficking children across our border receives the death penalty immediately.
Now, a lot of people have asked me to do a review of the film, and I know that this is way overdue, and I apologize for that. I've been procrastinating making videos because I've been doing some other stuff, but let's do it now. And look, I'll give you the short version first. I love this movie. The production value is, honestly, it was shockingly good. Shockingly good. It's really top tier. The cinematography is gritty when it needs to be. It's beautiful when it needs to be. And everything about the production amplifies the emotional impact of this story perfectly in every scene. The music, the cinematography, the acting, everything's perfect. It's masterfully shot. It's brilliantly acted. The story is amazing. It's a true story. And, you know, usually movies based on a true story, I find a bit dry because fiction tends to be amplified reality, right? Real life, no matter how impressive a story is, it's always confined to the nature of reality. And that always puts a limit on how spectacular a story can be. But this story, dang, this story, even if it were invented as a fiction, it is a hell of a story. It's the kind of story that's fascinating and heartbreaking and shocking and thrilling and hopeful. This story is really mind-blowing, and I do think it's really just as important to see this movie as you've heard everybody say it is. Now, I spoke with Sebastian Gorka about this film just the other day, and I will play that conversation, and I'll get into some more details about the film in one moment. First, I have to sell you something. The US dollar has lost 85% of its value since the 1970s when the dollar decoupled from gold. And the government seems bent on continuing this tradition. From now until the next election, the government can print as much money as they want. The last time they did that, inflation went up 9%. This means one thing: the security of your future and your family's future, it's all in your hands. Make sure you freeze the value of the wealth that you are holding. Invest in gold with Noble Gold Investments. Gold is the one asset that is proven to withstand recession, inflation, and just about all economic threats. Noble Gold Investments is here to help you if you want to invest in gold. You will also get a 24 karat 1/4 ounce gold standard coin for free. Go to noblegoldinvestments.com right now, noblegoldinvestments.com, or simply call 1-877-646-5347, the only gold company that I trust. Okay, so I mentioned that conversation with Sebastian Gorka that people on Twitter are railing against this film.
Mr. Reagan, Chris Coles, we're going to talk about a very special new film, aren't we, Chris?
Oh, yeah. This is a very special film. This is a very powerful film. It's a very difficult film. It's a challenging film, but it is an incredibly important film.
You were telling me in the break that what were you reading online?
Yeah, on Twitter, there's an ad. There's an ad on Twitter for this film, Sound of Freedom, from Angel Studios, just, supporting their film, typical ad for the film. But then you've got this bizarre backlash from the left. It's strange. It used to be, leftists, they need a purpose in life, right? They're typically atheists. They reject faith. They reject any kind of spiritual purpose in the traditional Christian sense. So they want to be environmental activists or something like that, right? But a lot of them had decided many years ago, I noticed that a lot of people were in these positions in these nonprofits to stop human trafficking. This was a big deal. They wanted to stop it. I thought, wow, there's actually a good purpose for you. You're actually doing some good in the world. Now it seems the left has turned against human trafficking as a bad thing. Now they're against this movie. Like, I don't know if they've seen the movie. I don't know what's wrong with these people, but you get these responses like this. This guy writes, he's got rainbow flags and BLM and stuff like that all on his profile here. And he writes, Are you going to make a movie about the Christian pastors who sexually assaulted kids and the Republican governors who trafficked human beings? Right, there's a kind of like
Well, they
whataboutism there.
did make movies about church abuse.
Of course. Yes, of course they have. Yes, of course they have addressed that. This guy, Trending Sands, writes, am I to understand that this is a movie meant to peg all of trans with child kidnapping or harm? I just want to make sure I understand correctly. Well, no, it's got nothing to do with trans people. I don't know where they're getting that. This Ches Ray writes, so here's my question. At one point, are movies like this propaganda and programming versus entertainment and illumination? I don't think I'll be seeing it, but thank you anyway. What do they mean propaganda? What are they talking about? This is a true story about somebody saving children from sexual exploitation. Somebody writes, is it free because it sucks? Somebody writes, nah, I don't support projects with conspiracy theorists and religious fanatics involved. Hard pass. Somebody else writes, anti-Semitic nonsense. It just goes on and on like that. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever...
Anti-Semitic what? What?
I have no idea.
And let me read some headlines about this film from the news media, right? These are from so-called legitimate news agencies, journalists, right? And these folks are very highly paid and they're writing this kind of crap. All right. This is from NPR. NPR wrote, why QAnon supporters are promoting Sound of Freedom. Then The Guardian, they called this film QAnon adjacent. And USA Today wrote, the Sound of Freedom misleads audiences about the horrible reality of human trafficking. And to support this accusation, they cite a study from Baylor University that found that less than 10% of child trafficking involved kidnapping. Okay, so just in case the USA Today folks are watching this and maybe they're curious about this, 10% is not 0%. Those are two different numbers, all right? This film is not claiming that every human trafficking case is being depicted in this film, okay? But according to USA Today, you're not allowed to make a film that accurately depicts the horrors of a particular type of crime unless you figure out, statistically speaking, the most common way in which that crime is perpetrated. And then you've got to depict the crime in precisely that way only. That's the only way you're allowed to do it. Otherwise, you know what? You're misleading audiences. I mean, what a weird way to try to suggest that a film is misleading. They are really grasping at straws here to try to characterize this film as dishonest or like bad in some way, right? Because objectively speaking, this is a great film. It's just both great in the terms of production value, the story, and the message. In every way imaginable, this is a great film. And it begs the question, why? What the hell is wrong with leftists? Now, I did another interview the other day in which I discussed the American Library Association's push for small children to attend Drag Queen Story Hour. And we had a bit of fun with that. And I made the point that I think that leftists actually hate children. They do. They have this policy like, let's make sure that every child possible can be killed in the womb. Let's just make sure that America kills all the babies before they're born. And if we can't do that, if we can't kill them before they're born, let's throw them to the drag queens, right? Make sure they all go to Drag Queen Story Hour and get their minds completely messed up. It's bizarre, like as a society, we used to want to protect children from like weird stuff like this, like drag queens and like weird sexually depraved ideas. And we used to very specifically tell children, beware of strangers. That was like a very common thing when I was a kid. Beware of strangers. Everybody knew this. But instead of saying beware of strangers, we now tell children, listen, Timmy, if you don't get into the windowless van, you might hurt that man's feelings. I mean, we're virtually just like setting up traffic cones, directing them right into the windowless van with the creeps, And why is it? Why is the left so crazy about like shovel the kids into Drag Queen Story Hour, mess them up? The reality, I think, is that kids are too honest. If they see an obese woman, they'll point to the obese woman and they'll say, that lady's fat, right? That's what a little kid will do. And that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing for the mom. That's embarrassing for the fat lady, everything like that. And it's also true of the transgender folks. If a little kid sees a transgender woman in a dress and lipstick, that kid is going to say, that's not a girl, that's a boy. That's what a little kid will say. And why will the kids say that? Because kids are honest, right? It's like the emperor's new clothes, except it's the dude's new dress. I don't know. And look, this makes children the natural enemy of the leftists. Because kids are so honest, leftists can't have that existing, right? Because leftists, they all live in a fantasy world. They live in a world where obesity is healthy. They live in a world where a man can believe he's a woman and he is a woman. And kids don't play that, right? Kids are painfully honest, and leftists hate the truth. And so because leftists hate the truth and kids are too honest, leftists hate children. And look, I am kind of joking around a little bit about this, but within some jokes, there is a grain of truth. And if you want the hard truth about why the left hates this film, The Sound of Freedom, I think it might have something to do with what I'm saying here. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And remember, it's not that our liberal friends are ignorant. It's just they know so much. That is not so. Good night.
This is the specter our well-meaning liberal friends refuse to face, that their policy of accommodation is appeasement. If we continue to accommodate, continue to back and retreat, therein lies the road to war. You and I know and do not believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery.